Hello everyone, it's time for another weekly reads, and I have quite some updates, so let's just get into them. First of all, the finalists of the BookTube Prize have been announced. I was surprised about some, but mostly okay with everything, so that's great. I also get my assignment for judging, so I'm going to be judging the final round, and I'm going to be judging non-fiction. I want to still read all of the books in the finals for both fiction and non-fiction, but I will be reading the non-fiction more. I will be prioritizing the non-fiction because I have to judge it. So that's what's happening. I have read 2 of the non-fiction books in the non-fiction section and 4 of the fiction finalists. So I have 6 books left to read. I have started already 1 of them. I am currently reading The Dead Are Rising by Les Payne. And yeah, I cannot comment on what I think about it because I'm reading it at the moment and I have to judge it. But that's what I'm reading. I started the judging with. And then also Inferno by Catherine Cho is on script, so I will probably continue with that. And then the other 2 I have to get. And then the 2 for the fiction category are available in my library, so that's fine. So yeah, those are the plans for the BookTube Prize. I have still 2 months to do it, but because one of the finalists of nonfiction is Red Comet, which is 1,000 pages, I want to get started on that. And then the other thing that happened this week is that I have started with my Booker longlist reading and reviewing. So you might have seen there are 2 reviews out. I will link them down below if you haven't seen them. But those are for the Great Circle, and no one is talking about this. So let's talk first about the Great Circle. As I said in that review, I finished this at the beginning of the week. And as I said in the review, I have mixed feelings about it because I can recognize the layering and the complexity of the plot, but the writing is deceivably simple, and you have to put on a lot of work to be able to unpack the layers and probably reread the book to unpack the layers. And I don't know if that is something I want to do because some of the parts, especially in the middle, I struggled through. Like it was not pulling me in. So I don't know if it's completely successful at what's trying to do, but I admire what it's trying to do. And by the way, the Great Circle follows 2 timelines, one from 1914, I think, until 1970 is the life of this woman pilot that had to make a place for herself. And then the other one is sort of current timeline, where this woman is an actress and she struggles with several things, and she has some parallels in her life to this pilot, and she's eventually hired to play the character of this pilot in a movie. So those are the 2 timelines, and we go back and forth. I much prefer the pilot than the actress timeline. And yeah, there are a lot of layers of connections between the 2, and a lot of characters, lot of characters. So yeah, it is an interesting book, and it has a lot of layers, but you have to put a lot of work to find all of the things. So it is a bit of a mix for me. I think that I would really have liked to discuss this in a book club. So if you have a book club, maybe that's a good pick for you. And then the other one that I finished for the Booker longlist is No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood, which I didn't like. It's about a woman that is an influencer, sort of. So there's this thing called the platform, but that it looks a lot like Twitter, and she kind of works for that, and then something, and then there's divided in 2 parts. And the first part is just about her life in Twitter or the platform or whatever. And then in the second part, something happens in her family. There is a tragedy, and yeah, that kind of changes her view on things. And I found the first part absolutely exhausting because I don't like social media, and that instantaneous thing of little, it's written also a bit like to mimic that, so each paragraph is for about a different thing, which is kind of what Twitter does, right? Like you have one tweet about something and then a tweet about something completely different next to it, and it just gets you into this circle of constantly checking for the new thing that is not necessarily meaningful at all. So that was the first part, and it was exhausting. And then the second part, it's kind of more focused, and I enjoyed it more. But still, it felt kind of cliche, even though it's very tragic, and I think it's partially biographical, but still, like, it felt cliche. So yeah, I didn't enjoy this book, overly enjoy this book, but I can see how the idea of trying to play with the form and stuff was valuable enough to be in the long list of the Booker. I hope it doesn't make the short list, but I can see why it's there. I didn't vibe with this book. And then the last one that I finished for the Booker long list this week is Second Place by Rachel Cusk. I will have a review coming for that as well. But this one is about a woman that is obsessed with this artist, and they have like a small cottage, I think, that where they host artists and they kind of promote them. And so she invites this artist to this place, and we kind of see the relationship between the two, how it evolves, and all of the obsession linked to it. And yeah, it's written. I always thought that this was going to be very artsy and very pretentious, and the writing is very flourishy and very deep in thought. It didn't always feel pretentious. It does at some points, a lot of times, but not always. And also the artsy part is more about the art itself and not about your knowledge of current artists and current movements or anything like that, which is something I liked, because I don't like books that are just about you having to know certain artists and relies on you knowing things about the art world. I don't feel that this relied on that too much. So in that sense, I like the book. But yeah, I also struggle through it. It's fairly short, which helped. But yeah, it was also not my favorite. But yeah, I can totally see how this is in the Booker long list and why people like it. It's just not my personal preference, but I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. So that's good. So that's what I finished this week. And in terms of what I am reading, as I said, I'm reading The Dead Rising for the book to price, so I'm not allowed to talk about my thoughts and feelings on that. I'm also still reading A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. This is going to be here for a while. I'm buddy reading this with Ash and Jyotsna and Lorraine. And we are supposed to be finished with part 6 this week. I have like 30-40 pages left of that to finish today, so that should be okay. But actually we want to speed up a bit because it's a book that relies a lot on you being interested in the characters and knowing who everyone was. And if you read it too slow, you kind of lose that pace. So we want to keep that pace. So yeah, I think we are going to do maybe 2 parts a week or something, which should be, it's still okay. It's like at 200 pages per week. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I think that it's the perfect combination of gossip, family drama, and politics. And it also has humor. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying this so far. I have to say that at some points I do feel like there are a bit too many characters and I'm a bit lost in them until I remember who they are. Also because they are often referred to as their like titles rather than their names. So yeah, that is sometimes a little bit difficult to follow, but yeah, I'm learning a lot and I'm liking this a lot, so I'm excited to continue with this one. And then the last one I'm reading at the moment is the Jill, and this is an Australian book that got a lot of praise. I think it was released last year, and a lot of Australian booktubers really loved it, and so my book club chose it as our choice for this month. We have the meeting next week, so I'm trying to read it before then, and I'm really liking it. It's also very thoughtful, but not in a pretentious way, and it reflects a lot how the life of a native or an aboriginal would be, and the struggles with culture. In that sense, it reminds me a little bit of Braiding Sweetgrass from Robin Wilkemeyer. That struggle of you're always thought that this anglicized version of culture is your culture, but actually then you find out that you have a whole culture that you didn't know about, and how you learn about it. And it's the yield is often told in like paragraphs of a dictionary of words from native languages from Aboriginal Australia, and kind of builds the story that way. It's not very plot driven at all, and it's also not especially character driven. It's just thoughts and ideas driven, which is something I quite like. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that one. I should be done with it next week, and then if I have time to read other things, I'm reading the Rising in audio, and then I also have Light Perpetual in audio for the long list of the Booker. So probably those will be my next audios, and then in physical form, I think my next choice probably will be Arene by Negar Djavadi, because I love her other book and I'm super excited about this, and I have put it on hold because of other things and prices, but I still really want to read this book, so I'm hoping to make space for it next week. And if I have time next week, which probably is not gonna happen, but you can dream, I also want to start The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace-Wells, which is my reread for this month. And I know it's short, but it's also dense, and I think I wouldn't mind to take my time with this. So even if I read it in a very slow pace, I'm okay with that. So I want to start that next week as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts, my ideas on what I want to read and what I have read and what I'm reading at the moment. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you have read any of the books I mentioned. Let me know if you have read anything great this week, and until next video, bye!